Hello, everyone. This is Daniel, and this is going to be about Babylon. And you have to avoid Babylon at all costs. So, I know this is an early video about Babylon, but what is it really? What must you flee from? In my opinion, if any church is like, let's say, like Babylon, if it's filled with false gods, or if it's filled with babbling, you have to flee from it because a church has to be right on top of the axis, the, the axle, or whatever you call it. Not the axis. It has to be on top of the middle pin. It has to balance on top of the middle pin. I meant to say. So this pin, if it's let's say like this or like this, like let's say there's like a very fine line for the church to be, and it has you have to repent from the world and basically not be part of the world, and you should not be lawless, but you should not be a hypocrite either, because we know that we are in sin. So as Babylon, they are either lawless or they're also filled with the laws of hypocrisy. So what is this Babylon? I believe it to be the church, and also I believe it's also the land of Babylon where churches thrive, and these churches are lawless and hypocrites. The lawless ones are what we call, let's say, Pentecostal or evangelical or anything like that. And that ones in the churches that are hypocrites are like the Protestant, the Catholic, and all that. Those churches that say, "Oh, we have to be following all the laws of God," those are hypocrites, by the way. And the churches that are saying, "Oh, we're wealthy, we're rich, we have all the money," those are lawless people. And those that are even further into lawlessness and speaking utterances that not even God knows about, they're just babbling. Some churches are doing the right thing and saying, "Well, we're not babbling and we're speaking actual tongues." Those are okay, but then there are also the other churches that are actual babblers, actually babbling. And I mean, this land is filled with apostasy. That's basically like Babylon. It's basically um, so it's basically taking the Jews in and basically making it sinful. Like it's not. I mean, they're taking the Jews and making it theirs, but also the Jews have to flee from Babylon because this land is going to be completely destroyed by God, and this all this trade, like it says in, should have left by that time, but anyway, I mean Revelation, chapter 11, I believe. Maybe it's something else. There's something about the Babylon, but yeah, not the two witnesses. Maybe 17. One of these two. 17? 18? 18. So 17 and 18. Babylon. So one of the great prostitute who rules over many waters. The great prostitute. This we know is America because 60% of porn comes from America. This is the great prostitute. This is America. What else? Drunk by the wine of her morality. This can also be in the churches. I saw a woman sitting on the scarlet beast that had 7 heads and 10 horns, and the blasphemies against the God that were written all over it. So 7 heads. that we can tell is, the seven nations. That's not Antarctica. Antarctica is free from that. But the seven nations are North, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and all the islands, and the Middle East. So drunk by blood of drunk with the blood of God's holy people, who are witnesses for Jesus. So basically, these again, this is really like America's porn industry and America and you know basically seducing all these Christians, and it's all these evil people in America. And the beast you saw was once alive, but isn't now. It will soon come up out of the bottomless pit. That's the spirit of America. And that's the spirit that was once of Babylon, basically the great nation of Babylon, who was struck down, and it's basically a spirit that is controlling all of American people. That's what I believe. And all the people who belong. It's basically Babylon also took on religion. It also was going towards God as holy people. They were trying to go to the clouds and trying to go to the heavens, which was impossible because they're trying to. Hello. Yes, it is.
Pause the video.
It's not showing the bed. It's not showing the bed, okay?
Pause it. I want to come and Splendor.
Hold on. I'm just going to do the bed. That's it.
Pause the video.
I can't. It's live.
So, close the laptop.
I can't. I'm gonna face it the other direction, okay?
This time when you're making video, don't show that direction.
Okay.
So before you make a video, make sure your bed is okay before you make the video.
Okay.
By the pillows.
It's good.
No.
What are you talking about?
Cover the pillows.
Oh. All right.
Really well.
Okay. Nice.
Shoot.
What do you say? Oh, shoes.
Your jacket.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, it's going out again. It's not shut. This thing's coming out just. I should probably just. again. So Revelation chapters 17, 18, not Hebrews, of course. Not the, there we go. There we go, perfect. So basically this is also a spirit. This is basically nations of Babylon. There's also the Babylon that was like Mount Babylon, where people started babbling because they were, in a way, mocking God. They're saying, well, we will be gods. We will go to heaven without even works. Does that sound familiar? Go to heaven without works? Evangelical people? The true ones and not the ones that are true people? A little bit of difference, but real difference too. So basically going to heaven without works, being rich and all that. And being as gods and literally trying to be God without doing all the works. That's what the people of Babylon did. And then the people of the second nation of Babylon, which is the same spot, these people were literally serving false gods and saying, oh, we'll be better than everyone else and be like gods without doing anything but serving gods. These people are bowing down to idols and doing all these horrible things, and that was the spirit of Babylon. And also it was like the spirit of Egypt that was like Babylon. Anything to do with false gods is like Babylon. And the Catholic Church is like that as well. So it's especially the Catholic Church and the Evangelical and Baptist and all that stuff that is not truly of God. Any church that I see that is corrupted is like Babylon. Spirit is going to be dead and it's going to be alive somewhere else in probably maybe America. Could be in the same spot, but really it's going to be like in America. We don't know for sure. Like I said, it's very early. And the people who belong to this world, whose names were not written in the book of life before the world was made, will be amazed at the reappearance of the beast who died. Again, we're not to be amazed by the beast. There are a lot of miracles that happen in this world. Matter of fact, there will be rocks that actually sing and trees that actually clap to the Lord of God. I think it's pretty amazing. But then the reappearance of the beast, people will be shocked by that. I'll just be like, oh my, that's crazy. And these were the people that don't really read the Bible, that the beast will be revived, and of course he will be, quite frankly, literally made in the shape of the lizard. He'll be the dragon of all the nations. This calls for a mind of understanding. The seven heads of the beast represent the seven hills, which where the woman rule, which represent the beast where the seven hills where the woman rules. Now I'm going to look at Washington D.C. To see if this is true. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. Now. Oh. But it does also say that 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 Rome has seven hills. So I don't think that it could be America, but it could also be Rome that has seven hills. or in that regard, that I would say maybe even it could be even mean Los Angeles. It could be anything like that. But remember, it's about the belief system. It's about the belief of um, Babylon. So this calls for a mind of understanding. The seven heads represents the seven hills where the woman rules. This also represents the seven kings. Five kings already fallen, six already fallen, the sixth not reigns, and seventh is yet to come. But his reign will be brief. The scarlet beast will that is, but is no longer is the eighth king. He is like he is like no, he is like the seventh. He is like the other seven, not yet risen power. He is like the other seven, and he is too headed towards destruction. The 10 horns of the beasts are like the 10 kings who have not yet risen to power. They will be appointed to their kingdoms for one brief moment to reign with the beast. They will all agree to give him their power and authority. Together, they will go war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will defeat them because the Lord of all lords and King of all kings, which is his and his called and chosen, and the faithful ones will be with him. So what this sounds like literally like Rome, Babylon, like Europe, and all the European nations that follow after it. So what this sounds like is that all the prime rulers of Rome, looks like Rome is headed towards destruction, and these are like countries like um, Germany, France, what else, and maybe even Poland. All these countries, and Switzerland and Sweden, all these countries are going to be headed towards destruction. Now, if you hear about the news about, if you heard of the news about those migrants trying to destroy the European countries, well, they're being homeless and trying to seek refuge in those nations because they know they're going against God with those nations. Now, quite frankly, I believe it's something to do with religion because Rome is literally its own destructive path, like the church is. Like I'm pretty sure it was a church. America is also part of Europe in some way or the other. Because it's part of England, and England has also escaped England has escaped the 10 nations. Rome was basically the first, and now it's the 10 nations. Like America. America's pretty darn fallen. Spain is basically completely fallen. Now it's also the church that's pretty darn fallen as well, because I believe that almost all the churches that Rome has taken over, actually, all the churches that Rome has taken over have completely fallen. I believe this is also the evangelical church and all that. Every church that has a hint of Catholicism, like angels with wings that are female, and these little wings and trumpets and feasts and all that, those churches are completely and utterly fallen. I'm not saying this to hurt you, but basically, I'm saying to basically prepare you for basically knowing that how to get to God and help you understand that this is really what Babylon's all about. Because first it was Rome that was all about destroying Christianity. Now it's all about Catholicism. It's trying to be religious because remember, Babylon was once religious and it was trying to be like God and be just as good as God. And then it became babbled. Like Babel means is to speak nonsense. It means to not know what you're saying. Then it became another nation of Babylon, which, by the way, was also religious, but also false gods that was going after the Jewish people. Then this nation, I believe in Rome, will come up and strike after the Christian people, but it will do so with believing hearts, because it will be like the first nation where everyone believes and they'll go against God. But will be Christians that not. It will be mainly consisting of Jewish, Christians, and all those people that believe in the system. Also, Muslims are going to be part of it, and the Buddhists are going to be part of it. So Babylon is mainly this dragon that's taking over all these nations. First, it's going to be the 10 nations, which is parts of Europe. And basically, Rome is in the center of it. So first it's Rome, then the 10 nations, which is Europe, then the 7 other nations, which is Europe, North and South America, Middle East, Africa, Asia, and the islands of Australia. Those are the 7 nations going after. And especially going after Europe. And now we go to the point where it's basically happening today, isn't it? It's happening today. So let's see. What does chapter 18 say about the fall of Babylon? This is like the great prostitute, which is America, and also the Christians are mainly the ones that are doing it and all that. It's a scary part. It's a really scary part. Now it's basically the fall of Babylon. After I saw this, I saw another angel come to me down from. After all this, I saw another angel come down from heaven with great authority, and the earth grew bright with his splendor. He gave a mighty shout. Babylon is fallen. The great city is fallen. She has become a home of demons. She is a hideout for every foul spirit, a hideout for every foul vulture, and every foul and dreadful animal. And for all the nations have fallen because of the wine of her passionate immorality. The kings of the world have committed adultery with her because of her desires for extravagant luxury. The merchandise of the world have grown rich. Remember, through this is kind of weird, but basically America tried to escape the papacy, but then through Israel and the splendor of the papacy, they grew rich again, and they basically became a bank of the whole world, which is America. You have to see that through the papacy, America got rich, and through the papacy, every nation has fallen. And of course, it's because of the papacy that America became a prostitute of all nations. And by the way, if you're rich, if you're very rich, like America is, it'll be so hard that you can't even enter through an eye of a needle. Like I said, it's like entering through something that is much smaller than an eye of a needle. Like an elephant entering through something smaller than an eye of a needle, because it will be much easier for a camel to enter through an eye of a needle than for a camel, than for a rich person to enter, and than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Let me tell you that. Remember that America is also involved, and Rome is involved, and all that. and every nation that Rome has touched will be completely fallen. Then I heard another voice saying from heaven, "Come away from her, my people. Do not take part do not take part in her sins." Which means, do not be part of the Catholic Church or the Evangelical Church, or you will be punished with her. For her sins are piled as high as heaven. Which means they're so piled. Like, imagine this computer. Like, this computer right here. This is like the keyboard. Um, or matter of fact, imagine my hand. This is like the size of this computer. It's piled. Actually, no. I have a better example. See this paper? This is sin, and it's piled up towards heaven. Oh, excuse me. And it's basically like, I would say, not just miles, but light years. It's literally like quintillion light years of papers that the sins have piled that high on. I'm being kind of rough on you, but this is really what sin really is. Or you will be punished with her, for her sins are piled high as heaven. And remember, and God remembers her evil deeds. Do to her as she has done to others. Double her penalty for all the evil deeds. She has brewed a cup of terror for others. So brewed twice as much for her. This is bad. This is really bad. She has glorified herself with and lived in luxury, which is America. And this is basically the papacy going to America. Her blessings, really. So much as it now is with torment and sorrow, she has boasted in her heart, "I am a queen on my throne. I am no helpless widow, and I have no reason to mourn. Therefore, these plagues will overtake her in a single day: death and mourning and famine. She will be completely consumed by fire, and the Lord who judges her is mighty, and the kings of the world who committed adultery with her and enjoyed her great luxury will mourn for her as they see smoke rising from her charred remains. They will stand in a distance, terrified by the great torment. They will cry out, how terrible for you, O Babylon, you great city. In a single moment, God's judgment came on you. For the merchants of the world will weep and mourn for her. There will be no one left to buy their goods. She bought all the great quantities of gold and silver, jewels, and pearls, fine linen, purple silk, and scarlet cloth, made of fragrant fine wood, ivory goods, and objects made of expensive wood, and the bronze, iron, marble. She also brought cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, chariots, and bodies that's like human slaves, and bodies that is human slaves. That's America, folks. This is all of America that we know, because what's going on is that America, by the way, is doing all of this. It's very rich. And it was blessed through Rome, which is the papacy and the Catholic Church. Because everywhere the Catholic Church goes, it blesses or curses. And also curses everything that blesses. And the fancy things that you love so much are gone. They cry, all your luxuries and splendor are gone forever, never to be yours again. The merchants who became wealthy by selling her these things will stand in the distance, terrified her of a great torment. They will weep and cry out, how terrible for that great city. She was clothed in the finest purple and scarlet linens, decked out with gold and precious stones and pearls. In a single moment, all of her wealth of the city is gone, and the captains of the merchant ships, of the passengers and sailors and crews, will stand in a distance and will cry out as they watch the smoke ascend. and they will say, "Where's another city like this?" And they will weep and throw dust on their heads and show grief. They will cry out, "How terrible! How terrible! For that great city, shipowners became wealthy by transporting the great wealth on the seas. In single moments, it's all gone." And yeah, in single moments, it's all gone. It's like repeating all the whole things. Remember, rejoice over her fate, O heaven, and the people of God, apostles and prophets, for at last God has judged her for your sakes. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a huge millstone and threw it into the ocean and shouted, "Just like this, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down with violence, and it will never be found again. The sound of harps, singers, flutes, and trumpets will never be heard in you again. No craftsmen, no trades will ever be found in you again. The stone mill will never be heard in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. The happy voices of brides and grooms will never be heard in you again. For the merchants were the greatest in the world, and you deceived the nations with your sorceries. And in your streets flowed the blood of your prophets of God's holy people, and the blood of people slaughtered all over the world." So all this means Babylon will be completely destroyed by revelations of revelations, because you know how the Roman Catholic Church, how it blesses all of America and blesses all of other countries and curses them. Babylon is filled with death, and everyone that tries to go against Babylon, some of them will be killed, and then all of them will be killed because they believe in the true God. And because what they did, basically they're literally the ones that by blessing, the Catholics are literally the ones that the Catholics are literally the ones that by blessing the entire world with their sins, not just blessing but cursing, they will partake in all the sins of the world. And by the way, Rome is also the Great Babylon, which was said. And Babylon is also the one that persecutes the Christians, and they have always persecuted the Christians since the start of Christ, and before that a little bit. The Catholics have always persecuted the Christians, and then on the other side were the evangelicals, which also persecute the Christians, are true, because not all of them, but almost all of them. And I mean, the Catholic Church, unless they're standing for the truth, they're going to be the ones that are persecuting the Christians, and the ones that are standing for truth. Those churches will be destroyed by the Catholic Church. And I believe that Rome and the United States and all those other nations that are blessed by her, I believe that this is what's going to happen to them. I know for a fact that the Bible is true. Didn't you know that some of the miracles that happened in the Bible actually happened? For one thing, let me tell you how we can tell that the Bible is real and that Babylon's basically Rome and United States and all these other nations, 7 nations, because there didn't used to be that many. It's in Matthew chapter 24, which is a popular verse for end times people. And I'm going to just go over a glimpse of it because this is all that we've gone over. And then the end shall come. That's all I can say. Basically, it says, Do you see all these buildings? They say, okay. I tell you the truth. They will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another. That's nothing that was new. That's very old. And then they sound the Mount of Olives, and this is what he said would happen. Don't let anyone mislead you. For many will come in my name, claiming I'm the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. These things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. You've heard about these wars, haven't you? If you're old, you will basically know about all these things. And nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. World War One and World War Two, always like that. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. The spiritual ones would know about this. But all this only is the first birth pains, and with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. Still, it's happening in China and all these places because of, not because of Babylon, but because of what China and all the other places hate. They hate the Christians. They hate the Christians are true. And many will turn away from me and betray me and hate each other. Part of Babylon and part of persecution. Part of what's going on in China right now. Many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. You hear about false prophets on YouTube. Don't go to them because this is what's going on. This is what's going on right now. Sin will be rampant everywhere. Love of many will grow cold. This is happening. This is literally happening because have you heard of America literally falling into gay sin? This is like America's becoming literally very close to Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's going to be worse than that soon. But one endures to the end. Will be saved, and the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world, so that all the nations will hear it, and the end will come. Okay. So you can tell that I'm not going to North Korea and telling about the news. So that's debunked. And China can't get the news either. That's debunked. But almost everyone else is hearing the news about the end of the world. So if you're wondering, okay, how can you tell that this is happening? Gay people, gay pride. This didn't used to happen in the 90s, nor did it used to happen back in the early 2000s. It didn't used to happen in 2000 or 2003, nor did it happen in 2009. You'd have to be old enough to understand that. Gay pride, lustful sin, and all that. And basically, even worse is little children down to second grade and third grade are literally finding porn and they're going crazy over it. They can't control themselves. And this is the definition of what's going on in this world because let me tell you what Jesus said about this. If you lead to one of my children to sin, it will be great for a millstone to be attached to you and throw you in the bottom of the ocean. That's what he said. But he's so loving that he will still forgive you. Remember, we have a very short amount of time. America's very close to a breaking point. And soon America will literally lose all the churches. And the end time will happen. From when we are all persecuted, a door will open. And everyone, by the way, will have to share the news illegally. And Jesus will be spread all over the world, no matter what. And everyone will hear about the good news, and it will be overwhelming that the Antichrist will have to come. The devil will have to come and take that over. So my point is, Babylon is a great fallen nation. It is Rome that controls all these things and it's making all these things happen. There are many references of the Vatican being evil. But let me tell you something. If the Vatican has this seat of Satan and has angels that look bizarre and these trees everywhere that represent Satan, and that's his throne room, then why are you not worried? Because these are all evidence of things that are happening, that are about to come. Rumors of wars, false prophets. These are all happening today, right now. You say, "Oh, this happened in the old days." Those were just Gnostics. Those people were just false teachers. We're talking about false prophets all over the internet that are literally talking about, you know, when the world will end. If you hear someone say, "Oh, this is when the world will end," flee immediately because that's a spirit of apostasy and spirit of false prophecy and spirit of Antichrist and the spirit of Rome and the spirit of Babylon in Rome. This is a big deal because I know what that spirit's like. And he could change your mind in an instant. He could. But God is holding him back from you. He did this to me so I could tell you what this is all about. The spirit of Antichrist cannot be beaten by God. I meant to say, God cannot be beaten by the spirit. I meant to say. So yeah, I'm sorry. The spirit cannot be. The spirit cannot beat God. God cannot be beaten because if I had the spirit, would that mean I lost? Of course not. Because the spirit of Babylon wreaks havoc in the Catholic churches. He knows what he's doing in the Catholic churches. So it's all his high order is I'll take as many people as I can and want. And want is the scary part because he has everyone literally in chains except for two people. The mark of the beast is going to be so much stronger that anyone that takes it will be possessed by Yobel. Pope Yobel will take over all nations. And he will literally make you a Satanist, and he will mock his name, Jesus' name. And also by that time, you'll even mock the Holy Spirit because of what he was doing to you. Anyone that has a spirit and has a reference to the spirit must flee the churches because someday that spirit will take control of everyone's minds. That demon, who has all power and authority in the future, he cannot beat God. So he will be defeated. Those people that have mocked the Holy Spirit, all of them will have. There'll be not one left because of his supreme power. Two people. And those were the recent people. Because God keeps getting more power. These people keep getting more powerful through God. If it's just two people. And he's sometimes stronger. That means you are not going to escape. Let me tell you about the Spirit. One thing I'm going to tell you about him is he has patterns all over the Catholic Church about what he's like. The entirety of his Catholic Church, throughout his own history, it's always been the Catholic Church. It's always been all over the Catholic Church. That's what he's been doing. Is he's been collecting all these people through his own pride. and horrible behaviors. He's been making people like him, but soon they'll be almost like him. That's how scary the situation really is. And I think I shall tell you about him. He owns the Catholic Church. If you have a feeling of the Catholic Church, and have the feeling of evil in your heart that is like judgment and doom and gloom, and like the Catholic Church and crystal caves and all these great horrible things, like Spices of America, like Dill. You know what I mean. For some of you, you will know that you're being convinced by the evil spirit named Dill Bell. If you don't repent soon, you'll be possessed by him, and for all eternity you'll perish, because that Catholic spirit knows what he's doing. He said, "Let them believe," and they all did. And then once we believe, there's no turning back. In the other, other than that, we believe in Jesus, which is peace beyond all peace, love beyond all love. Just remember that Jesus is the only way into heaven. Jesus is the only way into heaven. Reach out towards Jesus. Flee from evil. Then love. And then flee from evil again by doing the right thing. Love everyone and do wonderful things. All right, I'll be done now, okay? Bye.